So at the moment, everything on our project is Arial at 24 pixels. Now, why does that come about? Where did this actually come from? Well, what we have obviously at the top of the page is my body, which is everything to do with the page. My font family is Arial. My font size is 24px. I've also got a line height in here, which we'll come back to in a second. But what happens if I want to change some things? Well, for instance, let's say if I want to make the font size bigger across everything, I'd do it here. But I'm kind of happy for it to be 24 everywhere, apart from my header. I want my header to be a little bit bigger. So how do I go about doing that? So I'm going to ignore Arial for now. We're going to keep Arial as it is. I'm going to change that a little bit later. But in my header, I want to change this to be a little bit larger. So what I need to do is tell my header, which is this box over here, we can see this highlighted, to be a little bit bigger. CSS is all about overwriting things. So on my entire page, I've got 24px, but then what I want to do is overwrite this header to be a little bit bigger. Hence the C in CSS, it cascades down into tags. So what I'm going to do is in my header, I'm going to add a little bit of room and add in, what do I want to change? The font size. So I've got my font size 24 up here on my entire page, except for my header, which I'm going to change the font size to be 48px. Now I'm just picking these font sizes kind of at random now, but what I can see is this is larger and this is smaller because this is the default and this is just the header's style. Now there's other things I can do as part of this. So what other things could we do? We want to make this bold. Well, what we can do here is add in a font dash weight. Now by default, I can click this open and we can see by default, this is 400. Now 400 is just the kind of normal or regular weight as part of this. We've got a 700, which is the normal bold style. But in here we have things like thin and extra light and medium and semi-bold, basically everything in between. So what do I want for this one? I'm just going to keep it as 700 for now. So I've got a bold font in here. So here we go, we've got a bold font and a kind of regular font. This is the default 400. This is a thicker font, which is 700. How do I make this italic as well? So to add that in, I'm also going to add in a font dash style. And this one is just going to be italic. So similar to font weight, I've got something which is default 400. The font style by default is normal. We have italic in here as well. So this goes in this way. So what happens if I want to start changing other things as part of this? Maybe I want to kind of change the line height of the page. All I need to do is do this on the entire page. This is 1.5 as a multiplier, not 1.5px. That would just be very, very thin lines. So here, my default line height is 24 times 1.5, which is 36. Here, my line height is 48 times 1.5, which is 72, I think, just off the top of my head. So if I have two lines, there'd be 72 pixels between them. Now, if I want to tighten this up, of course, I'll just add in a line height in here. Maybe I just want to make this multiplier 1. So it's every 48 lines between each one. Now, of course, at the moment, I can't really tell. They're quite tight. There's only one word in here. There's no second line. But these are kind of how I start to change these things up. Now, the question that I have is, of course, I might not want to use Arial in the end. I might actually want to use something else. Now, Arial is a default font. It's a web font that everyone can use, and it's installed on pretty much every single computer. There's other fonts which are installed on every single computer as well, things like Times New Roman and Georgia. So if I just want to change this whole page to Georgia, I can just write that in here. And of course, what we'll see is Georgia start to appear. Now, of course, we're kind of type nerds. We want to change how this stuff looks. So next, what we're going to talk about is how to move away from the kind of very default types into something a little bit more interesting.